I'm William Gallagher, and this is 58 Keys, which, as ever, as always, is for writers. Writers like you and me who write on Macs and iPhones and iPads. Do please like, subscribe, or patronize me, because, well, you know how much that helps. Although, actually, this time, the Apple Gear part, that's not really the center of the topic. You are. You're a writer. I think you possibly knew that. So at some point, you are going to need a couple of things. I mean, specifically, you're going to need a bio, a written paragraph or so about you. Look at the quality of information here. Bio is a paragraph about you. You'll also need a headshot, a photo showing, well, roughly head and shoulders. Maybe you won't need either for ages. Maybe you don't really want to do one. But when you need them, you tend to need them right away. And you'll need them because you're pitching to speak at an event, say, and then you're accepted, so you're in the program or you're on the website. And a bio and a headshot are just required. Social media too, if that's still even a thing. Strange days with social media. Back of a book too. Anyway, it goes on. Also, how to say this? If you are the writer who says, yes, here's a headshot, here's a bio, and you say it as soon as you're asked, you're actually telling me as a publisher, as an editor or event organizer that you're a pro and that I can work with you. There's been a couple of 3 projects in the last year or two where I've had to deal with dozens upon dozens of writers, a staggering number of whom did not ever supply a headshot photograph, no matter how often they were asked. And I also wrote bios. Well, this one's hard to explain. Well, for example, some were unusably short, some were unusably wrong, some didn't appear at all. Yeah. Actually, some of those writers complained later that they didn't have a picture of bio in the program. So the immediate impression I'd got during the design that they were unprofessional, yeah. Honestly, it shouldn't be like this, but with some writers, you actually end up with a really bad impression of them because of them not providing what you need for their event. They want to do this, they've pitched to do this, and they're not doing it. Or they're doing it in a ridiculous way, such as expecting me or a publisher to know who a photo of when its file name is img_2989. So let's make sure, you and I make sure that doesn't happen with you. We will use a Mac. And most of the time I'll be showing you mostly the preview app. I think it comes free with the Mac, but there's a couple more that I use for speed and control, various reasons, and I'll get to why. And really, we're just going to rattle through what I believe you need to do. And I did just say I believe. I know that this is what I say you need to do, and it's what I need when you're working with me. Every other editor, every other publisher might well disagree with me. So if your publisher or your editor or your event organizer gives you different instructions, well then, of course you're going to ignore me. Of course you're going to follow them, obviously. I believe, though, that what I've got for you will cover most eventualities most of the time. And let's start with the headshot. Don't overthink this. Okay, you do not need to book a photographer. You do not need to dress up. And you definitely don't need to pose. Just a simple photo of your head, your face, is all that's needed. On a website or a program, whatever, it almost doesn't matter what the shot actually looks like. Photo is partly there just to break up the page of the screen. It's a visual thing, but it is, of course, also there to help people recognize you when you start speaking. So plain and simple is best, which means, yes, you can take a photo on your phone. Of course you can, but look into the camera when you do it, okay? Not the screen, the camera, because otherwise you look really shifty when you're looking away. Also, unbelievably, don't stick your tongue out. Yeah, you're wacky. We get it. Typically, you're asked for a headshot, so head and shoulders photograph. So do that. Please do not have someone take a photograph of you in the distance up a mountain. I've had that. What can you do? Your phone or a good camera is going to give you a photo that's 3,000 pixels or more wide. Fine. Send that to publishers. They do, I do, shrink it down as necessary. These days you're more likely to see your photo on a website or maybe a downloadable PDF than you are in a glossy magazine. So I tend to just concern myself with the width and height, the pixel count. I don't have to be terribly fussed about the pixels per inch, the resolution, the quality of it. But if your photo is going in a printed magazine, ask the editorial staff what they need. They will know. They will tell you. Of course they will. And most of the time, you just need to send them the highest resolution image you've got, which means most of the time, you just don't fiddle with the image. Get the image, take the image, send it to them. Send them the shot you've got. That's it. If you need or if you want to fiddle, you can open the image on preview on a Mac. This is a photograph of me taken by M. Fitzgerald, and that's another thing. Always credit your photographer if you do have one. It's important, of course it is. She took that photograph of me at a Writers Guild event, and I thought the shot was perfect for giving you that immediate sense of just how busy that event was. I mean, such a good event. But you can now choose, well, you can choose this. Take the Tools menu, click on Adjust Size, and notice the resolution that it shows you. As it turns out, this one is 300 pixels per inch, which is good for print magazines, and you could change it, change anything you like, I suppose. If you're the one publishing the shot online, well, then maybe you would want to change this to 72 DPI, which is better suited for web and smaller file sizes. But let the publisher do that. Give them the maximum resolution you've got. But while we've got the whole image up, by the way, you could also you go back to that Tools menu and choose Adjust Color. If you then find this saturation section, you can drag it all the way to the left and have yourself a very nice black and white photo. Yeah, no, don't do it. You don't know how this image is going to be, or you probably don't know how this image is going to be used. And if you send it in color, then the publisher or the designer, they can make it black and white if that fits what they're doing. If you send it to them only in black and white, well, they cannot put the color back. Your image might be sitting next to others, for instance, and I want you to stand out, but I want you to stand out, well, not because you're the only one in monochrome. It's like a gap in your teeth kind of thing. But there are fiddles in preview that are more regularly useful, such as cropping. With this image open in preview, I can drag across it so that my head and shoulders are in this marquee, and then choose that overworked Tools menu and crop. Boom. Preview is destructive. I actually didn't think it was, and I so didn't think it was that I kind of doubt myself now. But you know, if you save this cropped image, it will overwrite the original. So either before you do anything, choose File Duplicate. Choose File Duplicate before you do any of this cropping lark. Or after you've done the cropping, hold down the Option key so that when you now choose the File menu, you get a Save As option and put a copy somewhere else. Notice, by the way, that whatever you do, you get a choice of many image formats. My US book publisher requires TIFF, TIFF, which is a high resolution format. I like PNG because it lets you make partly transparent images that I think look good overlaid on other things on a website, but the giant majority of places require JPEG. If they do, or if you don't know what they want, choose JPEG, but also whack that quality up to the maximum. Publishers can reduce quality. They can't add it. Well, okay, hold that thought. Also note that while this sounds ridiculous, but it's true, there are online systems, particularly older ones, that will only let you upload JPEG files with the full extension, the whole JPEG, and will actually refuse to accept anything that's just .jpg. There is literally no difference between these image formats. And I don't really know what to tell you because it can go either way, but I'd a guess it's more common to see .jpg, so use that. And if the publisher comes back to you, well, you know what to do. I did just say that I like PNG for transparency, and I think I more than hinted that you can add quality. Transparency first. Back in preview on the Mac, you can choose Tools, Remove Background, and done. The image now has to be saved in PNG format because JPEG won't cut it, won't allow transparencies, but you can make a JPEG, you can add in the background, you can do things. All right, in this case, it looks a bit rubbish, doesn't it, in this example? But you know that if I now cropped it, it could work. So you can do this removing the background, and it is amazing that you can. I mean, it's especially amazing that it's a free feature in preview, this so underrated app that just comes there on your Mac. but still think about it carefully. I just dealt with a project where a few people had clearly done this, and the fact that it was clear might be a problem. One swapped her background for a straight color, yellow, I think, and it was okay. The other one had taken himself out of where he was and put himself against some new fancy background, and it looked awful. In that case, my design happened to be in quite close cropped images of just the head and shoulders, so I cropped theirs in a little tighter and hoped to get away with it. Just there's a limit, isn't it? Because this is one where his shot was next to 2, hers was next to 4 or 5, I can't remember. But it meant I couldn't have their head fill the frame while everyone else's was a polite distance away. It would just look weird. So do what you can. Now, everything I've said so far has been in this great free preview app on the Mac, but I did that project, that particular headshot thing and the zoom, in Pixelmator Pro. This is one of only 2 apps that I want to mention that don't already come for free on your Mac. Links to them both in the description. I love Pixelmator Pro, and I have lately had many chances to love it, many chances to thank it aloud sitting here. As for one thing, it includes a super resolution feature, this thing of adding quality. Some people send me postage stamp style photos, totally useless, but Pixelmator Pro will enlarge them. Now, how much it enlarge depends on the quality of the original image. There's a limit. It'll only enlarge as far as it can while not ruining the quality without making, you can get a kind of dotty image, blurry. Yeah, it doesn't do that. And so far, that's actually been enough to fix all of the postage stamp style images I've been getting. Pixelmator Pro also lets me repair images. So I don't think I'd really bother with this example, but as an example, there's that dot there in the curtains in that image of me, and I can do something about it. I'm not sure if you can do this in preview. I do in Pixelmator Pro, press R for repair, alter the size of this repair brush, and then just click over the dot. Pixelmator Pro and other apps like Photoshop, they will just remove the dot and brilliantly cover up what they've done. But that's Pixelmator Pro, and I really like it, but I chiefly use it because I've already got it for other projects. If I didn't, I would use Preview. And there's one more thing that comes on your Mac, one more free feature of your Mac that I will always use, even though you're going to find this practically mansplaining. Here's that image M took of me for the Writers Guild. I mean, there it is on my Mac in a folder. I can click once to select it, hit the return key, and now type anything I like. I mean, you can see I've already done that. I've written who the photo is of, it's me, who it's by, it's her. And you can see also from others in that list, I've added things like web crop to some, so I know which is which. Some IT people insist that you should write everything without spaces, but they are only the IT people who can't write. Some people add a date, and in fact I do that too when it's an image that's to do with research that I'm archiving. All documents always have created and modified dates that you can very easily see, but it's also surprising how easy it is to inadvertently lose or change those. So anyway, at heart, I've just told you how to rename a document on a Mac. Look at the quality. Look, if you haven't switched off this video, you've just thrown something at me, haven't you? But take a look at this, please. I didn't make any of these up. All I did was copy them out from one projects folder to show you a selection, and there are so many more. Or actually, in fact, there were, because I spent hours going through all of them, renaming them, figuring out who was photo.jpg, who exactly is author pic KDCL1. It turned out, by the way, some of those letters were initials, but how was I to know that? I mean, is IMG, Imogen, Mary, Go Lightly? Or my personal favorite there, 6B69C. Yeah, you get the idea. I'm afraid it seems to me to be staggering ignorance, or maybe staggering arrogance, to send photos with names like that and assume you know who it is. Now, okay, maybe those writers couldn't rename their files. Maybe they assumed, let's be generous, that since the photos were being sent along with their text, it would be obvious who was who. Not when the text is written by 5 people and you've sent one photo. It isn't. Not when I am dealing with 60 or 80 of these. Not when I'm laying out the text first and then have to go back and do every single submission to try to guess who is who. Realize instead that whoever you are sending your headshot to is someone who is on a deadline and is almost certainly handling a lot of shots. So instead of 6B, 69, whatever it is, do William Gallagher, photo by M. Fitzgerald, or your equivalent, anything like that. Now I know, I can see it in you. You think that's obvious. And you can see that I think it's screamingly obvious. But the number of writers who do this so badly is equaled only by the amount of hours I have had to spend fixing it. There's one image in that latest press. It's gone to press now, it's fine, I can hint about it. The photo I uploaded, I actually had to rename so-and-so probably. Anyway, one last thing, which actually covered on that particular project, let's be fair, did, and I think did well, and I mentally thanked them sitting here, thanked them for it. You were writing on a Mac, but most publishers use PCs, and normally, so what? Use what you like. But sometimes the Mac tries to help you out, and unfortunately sometimes the PC also tries to help you out, but they help you out in opposite ways. For example, I've had publishers complain that I did not attach an image even though I did. Now, somewhere in that thread, either my Mac or their PC decided to helpfully show the image in line, so as part of the message, not as a downloadable attachment. Thank you, Apple and Microsoft. To avoid any chance of this, you can instead compress your image into a zip archive. Now, zip archives are meant to be for saving space, reducing the size of files, and it won't in this case because your image is JPEG or PNG or whatever. Almost all of them are already compressed. But PCs and Macs don't even try to touch zip files. They just show them in your email as a downloadable attachment as nature intended. To do this, select the image in the Find Out, right-click and choose Compress. Done. Your zipped archive is created, and it's even been given the same name as your original image. Although, you can actually do this with multiple images. It doesn't have to be one, you can get a whole set of them. I have one client, for example, where I prepare an image, I will send them the same photo in PNG and JPEG formats. And also, since they're on PCs, I zip the lot together. It saves problems, it's convenient, and I send that one zip file. In that case, with multiple images, the Mac will just name the zipped file as archive. Rename it to something more useful before you send it, because we've already established you know how to do that. That's all about images. Now you will need a bio, and in this case I'm writing in Pages, but it really doesn't matter. Well, I mean, pen and paper's out, but you know, otherwise, whatever. And I'll make this really quick because you already know how to write, don't you? Most places that want a bio from a writer will ask for quite a short one, perhaps 50 or 100 words. Write yourself them now. Write them both now. And so when you are asked for them, you just send it over immediately. I'll tell you, I was once listed as the first judge in a really fancy television awards program solely because I had this stuff ready and I replied to the email instantly. Everyone so much more important than I'll ever be, didn't have theirs to hand and so took longer. Do you know, as I say that to you, I suddenly realised they may have been out filming and things while I just was sitting. Yeah, okay. Still, there's a practical advantage, and even if you don't benefit by being listed first, you do have the benefit that you didn't have to add this to your to-do list. Someone emails asking for your bio, you hit return, send it right back. Done. Gone off your head. That there is an example of one example of just how incredibly fast you can do this. And okay, speed is never what I'm interested in. It's the responsiveness. It's the lack of needing to take the time to think unnecessarily about something. What I did there was I used Text Expander. It's another app which lets me type something short and memorable like XBIO. So BIO for bio, yes, and X because there aren't all that many words beginning with X, and Text Expander deletes those 4 characters, replaces them all immediately with the about 100 word bio that I originally wrote 20 years ago. I don't know. Again, I have Text Expander for other projects, so since I have it, I use it for this. But you can just about as easily, not quite as instantaneously, but easily enough, just keep your bio in a word processor document. When asked, open the document, select all, copy, paste back into the email, done. But if I don't want you to have to think about this at the point of sale, so to speak, I suggest that you do spend some time thinking about your bios in advance, thinking about it now. Write a 50 and 100 word bio of yourself, do it now, and do it in the third person. Lots of reasons. When people do first person in bios, they tend to start with things like, my name is William Gallagher. That's 5 words, isn't it? Of which the first 3 are just dead air. William Gallagher is, or William Gallagher writes this, whatever. That is better. I mean, it's a lot better because it goes straight into the point. It's better for saving the word count, I suppose, but it's also vastly better for the publisher because it reads like them describing you. So they can just take it and pop it straight on their site or straight in the program, straight in the back of the book. Plus, I offer that it's also better for you and your soul. I mean, I'll say this to you because you're a writer and you'll get it. Even if you're lucky enough that this doesn't apply to you, you will get it. I actually find it so much easier to write William Gallagher is than anything like my name is William and I am a... Yeah. Third person distances me, making it easier for me to write because I'm not talking about me, I'm describing I'm describing a character almost. I do also suggest that you should always amend your bio to suit the occasion, whoever's asking for it. So I've just started a book project, and okay, when I pitched the idea to the publisher, obviously as part of it I included my regular bio, but I added in a little bit more about books I've written, and to balance it, I took out bits to do with BBC radio work, for example. And okay, that took some thought, but it's always easier to edit an existing bio than to write a new one every time. But since you will have to write it new at least once, I suggest that a way to do this is to think of 3 things about you. I mean, 3 key things you've done or you are. William Gallagher is Deputy Chair of the Writers Guild of Great Britain, for one thing. I mean, as it happens, I'm going to have to drop that soon. The job with the Writers Guild is a trade union. Jobs like that, they come with term limits, and my term limit ends in September 2026, and I do not know what I'll replace it with. But right now, that's my way in. It's a single, easy to understand description of me, and I also think it's the most impressive description. Oh God, I mean, certainly I am beyond proud to serve as an officer of the Writers Guild. It's fantastic. But then next, say something specific about your writing. You've had this book published. You write for that website. Whatever you do, whatever stage you're at in doing it, you've done something. You can say something. So say that something and say it here. And then try ending the bio with a third thing that I offer should be as incredibly different as you can possibly make it. Frederica blogs, writes gardening novels, runs the Royal Horticultural Society, and teaches Mandarin. I like her already. Making the last part different tells me so much. It tells me that there's a lot to you, more than solely writing and solely this book that you're trying to pitch to me. It shows me that you're active, you're interesting. It actually says you haven't written this bio just for this event, even though you have, or you've edited it. It's saying that you have this great bio ready because you're always being asked for bios. It is actually saying quite loudly to me, you are a professional writer. Professionals are people you can work with, and I'll tell you, having hired countless writers over the years, you never forget the ones who are a pro, and you always come back to them whenever you can. But again, don't overthink this stuff. Don't overthink the third thing, the end of the bio. I mean, in my case, examples, I used to end with, a long time ago, I used to end with a line about flying helicopters, nicely different from writing. I had to take it off because I couldn't afford to keep up the lessons. I mean, rota time, wow. Anyway, more recently, I've sometimes ended with how well I produce this YouTube channel. And if I do that, if I mention that, well, I might say something obvious about the number of subscribers, or much better, I think, something like how there's been a new episode of 58 Keys every single Wednesday without fail for 6 years. Now, something small, yeah, but something I'm proud of, something I think is good. Mind you, got into a habit of more often ending with this. He once had afternoon tea on a nuclear submarine and regrets calling the place a dive. Truly, that line is, it's probably done me as much damage as it has good, because people either they read it and either they seem to be really amused at the gag, or they just stare at the screen wondering, what is he on about? Still can't resist that. Used to be worse, though. The truth is that I did do that, but I did it on a Russian nuclear submarine. Yeah, I deleted the word Russian from my bio a couple of years ago now. So 58 Keys, this YouTube channel, is for writers who usually write on Macs and iPhones and iPads, but we haven't really done much of that this time. There is that preview app on the Mac, and it's also on the iPad and the iPhone, where you can do at least most of what I showed you with images, if not everything. It's slightly different though. For instance, to remove the background from an image on the iPhone, you press and hold on the bit you want, the subject, you press on you really, and then you drag that to a new app. And then there was Text Expander, pants on the iPhone, even when it tries to work there. I'll link to Text Expander on the Mac below, and there's also Pages, but also Pixelmator Pro. What do you know? More apps than I realised we were going to talk about. Anyway, this has really been less about writing and more about being the business of being a writer. We can get so into our work, and then I think so into our heads, that we definitely overthink things like bios and headshots, and I get that. I understand, I can feel that. But if you can just instead think of what a publisher or an editor needs, you can help them out, and that helps you. And it's also ultimately a lot easier to do all of this in advance than it ever is to have to worry about it when they ask. And the less we can worry about the business of being a writer, the more time we have to write. And that's all I want. Look, I hope this has been useful. Thank you very much for watching. I mean, well, especially if it wasn't useful. What are you doing watching me if I'm talking rubbish at you? Anyway, take care of yourself, okay? Write more. It's important. And I'll see you soon.